New Raiders head coach candidates coming at you here from Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report. Let's face it, there was a lot of speculation that Mike Vrabel might be the next head coach of the Silver and Black. So now I got to give you a brand new list ranking these coaching candidates from 10 all the way down to 1, with Vrabel taking that job in New England. I'm not mad about it at all because I know this. The Raiders have their eyes set on a certain candidate who I believe is number 1 in this video, but every person that you see coming up here on today's show has either been linked to the Raiders via a report or Mark Davis and Tom Brady and my guy Jed Hughes has requested to interview that candidate. To make sure that you never miss anything going on around this Raiders head coaching search, I tell you this, whether you agree with me, whether you don't, if you're looking for commitment to excellence, we are going to do that here on this channel. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens this week. There's going to be a lot of stuff that happens next week, and I don't want you to miss anything going on around the Raiders, and I don't want you to be that Raiders fan that doesn't know what their team is doing. Let's look at what Mark Davis is maybe not done. Maybe Mark Davis hasn't done a good job of hiring head coaches, which is why Tom Brady's running the show, which is why they ended up also bringing in Jed Hughes to help out with the decision-making process. And when you actually look at a lot of the things that are going on in the backgrounds around this Raiders head coaching cycle, I get a lot more confident because it is clearly, and I mean clearly, Tom Brady running the show. And when you see the candidates that are coming in, when you see the reports that are around Mark Davis, around this Raiders head coaching search, it does. It looks like we are finally doing things the way that good organizations actually do things. So I'm going to go from 10. I'm going to work my way down to 1, and I got to put Deion Sanders on this list. I know what the reports are. I know the report from Vic Tafur, from The Athletic, from Tashawn Reed that said that the Raiders are not interested in Deion Sanders. However, though, if Deion is interested or, quote, very interested in the job, I still think that there is a realm of a possibility. The only reason why I also got to put him on here is because if Deion wants to coach the Raiders, that means that Deion wants Shedeur to go to the Raiders. And hiring Deion means that we're going to end up getting a quarterback, somebody that has worked with Tom Brady. I also think that the report of the Raiders saying that they are not interested in Deion is because they have their eyes set on somebody, and they don't want to make that person think that that's not who they want. Let's go to number 9 here on the list. I'm going to go with Brian Flores, defensive coordinator from the Minnesota Vikings. They got a big game tonight, and I'm actually curious if I ranked him a little bit low. If the Vikings lose, I do think that the Raiders are going to try to bring him in for an interview. They have yet to request it. But there was a report right when the Raiders ended up firing Antonio Pierce from Vincent Bonsignore, and there was a few names that were thrown out there. One of those names was Brian Flores. Flores also was with the Patriots from 2008 to 2018. I guess he's got a good relationship again with Tom Brady. I thought it might have been a little bit murky with some of the things that happened with Stephen Ross down in Miami. Again, Stephen Ross, Tom Brady, Michigan. There's a lot of stories there, but Brian Flores, number 9 on this list. Let's go to number 8 here, and this is a candidate that I wish that the Raiders would try to bring in. I like Liam Coen. Vincent Bonsignore, again, linked Coen to this Raiders head coach opening when AP was let go, but he has yet to get an interview request. And for Tampa Bay, they are now out of the playoff race after losing to the Washington Commanders. So maybe, just maybe, you see Liam Coen get an interview. I don't know. But what I do know is this. He comes from that Sean McVay coaching tree, which I think a lot of the OGs from this show know that I'm a sucker for the Sean McVay tree because it's worked almost every place that one of these coaches go. He's done a phenomenal job with Baker Mayfield, and that Bucs offense this season was one of the best, if not maybe the best offense in the league, whether it was on the ground, through the air, and he's done a great job with the quarterbacks. Will Levis, Baker Mayfield, Liam Coen, young offensive mind, and maybe if you can't get one of these big-name coaches, you could potentially look at like Liam Coen, because I like Liam Coen a lot. I think he's going to be a good coach in the NFL. So here's going to be the pinned comment on today's show. Who do you want the next Raiders head coach to be? For any of my watchers out there, you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. Scroll on down. Give me your answer. My answer coming up after this YouTube ad break. I am going all in on Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is the guy that I want, and I think Ben Johnson is the reason why the Raiders, quote, are not interested in Deion Sanders. You wouldn't look at your wife or the person that you want to marry and say, well, I kind of also like this person over here. That's not a smart move for any guy out there. It's not a smart person from anybody that's watching the show. The Raiders are not interested in all these other coaches because their eyes are set on Ben Johnson. And you know what? Left nuts for BJ. Let's go to number 7. I got Vance Joseph coming in, defensive coordinator for the Broncos. And actually, this one just dropped this morning. If you are subscribed to the channel, you'll probably see that I dropped a video a little bit earlier talking about why I like the idea of bringing in Vance Joseph. And I'll admit, I do not think that this is a candidate that you decide to bring in and hire as your head coach. He didn't do a very good job in Denver from 2017 to 2018. However, though, why not try to see the way Vance Joseph thinks? Why not try to see maybe some of the schemes that they're running? And at the worst case scenario, you peel the curtain back a little bit and you get to see an inside look at your AFC West rival. I'll also say this. Every coach from here on out, the Raiders have submitted the request. And the way that this video is made is not which guy I want the most. It is who is the most likely to be the Raiders head coach. Let's go to number 6 now, and I got Steve Spaqnuolo, and another defensive mind, another guy in the AFC West, and everything that I just said about Vance is the exact same reason why, if you're the Raiders, you should bring in Spaqnuolo. I mean, this is a guy who, he's been with Kansas City since 2019. That's been a really good defense. It's a great defense yet again. And if you can take away a defensive coordinator from the best team in your division, if you can maybe see again what Andy Reid, what Patrick Mahomes, what some of those guys are cooking up, maybe you get an inside track look there. He was an intern for the New York Giants back in 2017, but a lot like Vance Joseph, a lot like Steve Spaqnuolo, I think that some guys are just built to be coordinators, and I believe that with them. I would not want those two guys to be the Raiders head coach. But defensive coordinator, yeah, but they're not going to come to the Raiders. They're not going to leave their job to be a DC. Before I get into the more top candidates here, coming up here on the Raiders Report, huge shout out to our sponsor, Game Time. Last minute tickets, that lowest price guaranteed, and Game Time is all about bringing people together for 2025. You're not always going to remember the score. You might remember the popcorn that you got at the game, but whether you're going to a football game, a baseball game, a hockey game, Game Time's going to make sure that you get the best prices available. Game Time's got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. What I love about using the Game Time app is that you get the lowest price guaranteed on any ticket to any event, all in pricing so you don't get slapped with crazy checkout fees and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer the event gets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. If anybody's trying to go to a playoff game, I think that would be a really dope and amazing thing to do. Save up some money. Go to Game Time. Get a good ticket price. There's going to be a lot of really good games. I mean, I'll tell you this. I would love to watch Ben Johnson going up against a tough Commanders team. Jaden Daniels, that's a fun game to go to. Let's go to number 5 here on the list of Raiders head coach candidates in 2025. I got to put Robert Saleh on this list, former New York Jets head coach. Defensive-minded guy, spent many years in San Francisco, and quite frankly, there's a part of me that thinks that Saleh is going to go to San Francisco because a lot like the New England Patriots situation, it was like, they fired Gerard Mayo, and then instantly Mike Vrabel became a front runner, and it was all ducks pointing towards Vrabel to New England. It ended up happening. The San Francisco 49ers, right after Saleh is fired, right after the year is done, what you know it, rumors starting to speculate Saleh to San Francisco. So, that's kind of where I could see him going. He does have an interview planned with the Silver and Black this Thursday, January 16th. Jets head coach for a few years, kind of thought he got the raw end of the deal over there in New York. Aaron Rodgers kind of shot that one in the foot, but great defensive-minded coach who I do think gets another opportunity. I think Robert Saleh could be one of those dudes that people could look at as like a Dan Quinn, very well-respected guy. Dan Quinn struggled a little bit his first time. Seems like he's figured it out here a little bit as the commander. So Robert Saleh, definitely a name to consider. Let's go to number 4 here. It's Aaron Glenn. And for a long time, and I still think that Aaron Glenn is the front runner for the New Orleans Saints head coaching job. But there are some other names, and there was a report that dropped this morning around Mike McCarthy and the uncertainty about him going back to the Dallas Cowboys. And it was reported by Nick Underhill, who's a very tapped-in beat reporter for the Saints, that they would be interested in Mike McCarthy. So, I still think that Glenn is the favorite to go here, but the reason why he's number 4 and the reason why it matters for the Raiders is I do think that the Silver and Black kind of structured some of these interviews to put guys like Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn a little bit, higher up on their pedestal a little bit earlier on last Friday when he interviewed. So if he doesn't go to the Saints, I do think that he's a top 4 candidate here for the Raiders. Rolling in now at number 3. This is where it starts to get interesting for me. I'm a big Todd Monken fan, and Monken was somebody that I talked about last season. If you go back and look at my Raiders head coach videos, I talk about Monken last year. I also talked about Monken quite a bit during the season of just somebody to entertain the idea. If this was more when I was on my Jalen Milroe hype train, Monken, I think you could establish that type of offense. The Raiders have requested to interview Monken. However, though, he has not accepted the interview, and it's still unknown if whether or not he is going to interview. The Ravens took care of business up against the Steelers, so, he could wait, right? And any of the coaches, if the Raiders want to hire Monken, you got to wait until the Ravens lose. If the Raiders want to hire Ben Johnson, you got to wait until after the Lions lose. But he was great with Georgia, was great with Brock Bowers, and if you're Tom Brady, you're looking at, we got Bowers coming off maybe the greatest season ever by a rookie tight end. Not even maybe. It was the greatest season ever. Maybe all time by a tight end, I think you could argue, because of what he did as a rookie. But he was so good with Bowers in Georgia. And the way Lamar Jackson is playing right now, Todd Monken, if you want an offensive-minded head coach, is the guy that I would consider, unless you can't get the dude at number 1. Let's go to number 2 here. It's Pete Carroll. And I personally am a little bit nervous about the Raiders hiring Carroll. I know he's a big-name guy, and I know Mark Davis likes big names, and I am concerned if you don't get the number 1 person on our list that they're going to look at Carroll. Jed Hughes was hired by the Raiders to talk to Davis, to talk to Tom Brady, and Jed Hughes was actually a part of the Seattle Seahawks. Not a part, but the Seahawks hired Hughes and his team to hire Carroll, and then Schneider at the time back in 2014. So there is already a little bit of a relationship there. Carroll interviews with the Raiders today, Monday, January 13th, and this has been a name that's really been circulating around. He's been a head coach on multiple NFL teams out there. You know that Mark likes a big-name guy. But all I'm saying is this. I would actually rather Deion than Pete Carroll, and that's just me being real with you. But, and I mean but, Pete Carroll does make me nervous at age 73, and I know I talked about Mike McCarthy earlier, and literally at the time that I am making this video, the Dallas Cowboys are deciding to move on from Mike McCarthy. So pay attention. This could be another name that, who knows, maybe the Raiders could put in an interview request. Maybe it's a name that I got to put here on this video. But you know what? Coming up here at number 1, spam BJ down below. I want Ben Johnson, and I want him to be the next Raiders head coach. He interviewed on Friday, January 9th. Thank you to Tom Brady, which was reported. And there's been multiple reports out there that the Raiders are, quote, enamored with Ben Johnson. This is the number 1 target that I wanted. This was the number 1 target I wanted last year. And I'm telling you this, I celebrated when the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels. We went live for 26 straight hours. If the Raiders hire Ben Johnson, y'all better be ready to blow the roof off this joint. We went live for 9 hours when they traded for Devontae Adams. I think this show might be crazier because I am more excited for the opportunity, what Ben Johnson offers in terms of offensive philosophy, in terms of the way that he schemes up plays. When you watch Johnson call plays, it's honestly, you're going, why don't more NFL teams do that? And I think when you look at the type of quarterback that he's had success with, somebody like a Jared Goff, I think Shedeur Sanders and Jared Goff are very similar in terms of the way that they go out there and try to execute an offense. Tom Brady obviously likes working with Shedeur. If Ben Johnson and Tom Brady are running the show, this Raiders team will get back on track to just winning, baby. So here are, one more time, our Raiders head coaching candidates, and I like Mike McCarthy. I think Mike McCarthy is going to be one of those names, kind of like a Mike Vrabel, where I do think he's a top 32 head coach in the NFL, right? If he was a quarterback, we would say, oh, he should be a starting quarterback on a team. I think McCarthy, there aren't 32 other people better at being a head coach. I think the problem with McCarthy in this past season was, I think at the end of the day, they listened to Jerry Jones a little bit too much. But here's my hot take. I think the reason why they're not bringing back Mike McCarthy is because if Mark Davis is going to say, I'm not interested in a guy like Deion Sanders, and Deion Sanders has already come out, and Sanders has already said that he's interested in the Raiders job, I bet you Jerry Jones is sitting there going, well, I wonder if he's interested in the Dallas Cowboys job, because if there's one guy that cares about money, maybe more than Mark Davis, it's Jerry Jones. And I'm telling you this right now, my bold prediction, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys this season, Deion Sanders, which means I think that means Shedeur is going to Dallas, which means whole new thing coming up here for Dak Prescott. So one more time here, top 10 head coach candidates for the Las Vegas Raiders. If you want to take a screenshot of this bad boy, I will say I do think that the Raiders could show a little bit of interest in Mike McCarthy. If that is the case, I will make a video on it. For more updates, for more news, hit that subscribe button. If you want to tag me on IG or Twitter, I'm at Mitchell Renz 365.